Welcome back to day 20 of my 31 days of Halloween themed drawing tutorials. Today's new video, I'm gonna show you how you can draw this Bride of Frankenstein from start to finish, all in real time, no cuts, no edits, no time lapse. So if you wanna draw along step by step with me, keep watching. All right, everyone, so let's draw the Bride of Frankenstein. Starting out, I'm using a 4000 by 4000 300 DPI canvas. For my brush to begin with, I'm gonna use my HB pencil, which is part of my new pencil set that's available now. And for my color palette, once again, I've already got this pre-made, so you can download this for free by going to my website, which I will link down in the description below too. If you just go to bjadell.com, underneath the YouTube reference materials section, you can save this as a JPEG to your camera roll. Just go up to your wrench icon here once it's saved, insert a photo. It's gonna bring it in as a separate layer in Procreate, and then you can just long press each of the boxes to bring up the colors as we go through today's tutorial. So let's start out. I'm gonna use black here, once again with that HB pencil, and I'm just gonna start to sketch out some basic shapes to lay this all in. So this right here, just a circle, it's gonna be the head. And of course, this is really far down. How are you gonna make a whole design out of that? The idea here, I think, when I picture Bride of Frankenstein, just think about that huge hair coming out. And with this being a cartoon, I just wanna kind of accentuate that and just drive that all the way. So I'm gonna make it absolutely massive. So I'm gonna pull up a couple lines here towards the top. And this is gonna be the hair coming up. So we're just gonna go super crazy with this. It's gonna be super, super big. And it kind of brings home, like I said, that cartoon feel to everything. Now pulling in here a little bit closer, we can do a couple circles here for the ears. And then I'm gonna wait to start adding in more details to the head here until we get the rest done. I'm gonna bring just a couple lines down here for the neck. We'll draw a line across here for the shoulders. And I think with this, I'm just gonna go ahead and do kind of like a gown that she's wearing. So we're not gonna go crazy with the outfit, just to kind of speed up this tutorial instead of doing, you know, nuts bandages and massive boots and just a crazy looking outfit. We'll just go pretty simple with this to keep it short. And then pulling off here, I'm just gonna pull down an arm here. It's a sleeve coming down. And then this one, instead of having it down here the same way, I'm just having this kind of outstretched a little bit. Having the sleeve come down that way and taper out. I think that'll look kind of cool. There's that. Just draw a circle here and here for where the hands come out. And then just a couple of kind of ovals here for the feet. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and kind of zoom in here. We can get the hands blocked in a little bit better. So I'm just going to pull out just the thumb here, down into the index finger, the middle finger, ring finger, and I think I'll just keep it with 3 fingers here. So there's that. And I'm going to turn this around. I usually like to draw the hand straight out, so I find kind of turning it and moving it that way will help me a little bit better. I'm going to move this circle over a little bit so the hand's more in line with the sleeve as it comes out here. Maybe a little bit more here. And draw in a couple circles here just to kind of visualize where those palms are. Pull the fingers here. 1, 2, 3, and then back into the thumb there. Pull that out, make sure that those are about the same size. This one looks to be a little tad bit bigger, so I can shrink that down. It's one of the dangers you run into with getting too close is you can't see from side to side to make sure everything matches up, so you might have to readjust. But I think that looks pretty good there. Now we can kind of pull in here and start to add in some more details. So I'm going to go ahead and have the hair coming down here behind the ear, and then towards the front. Have this kind of wrapping back down towards the peak there. Same thing here. insides of the ears there. Have the jawline coming down here. Zoom in a little bit closer so you can see it. Do a chin right there. And then I'm just going to do some ovals here for the eyes. Once again, I really just go in with basic shapes just to lay out the foundation of where everything goes. Same thing here for the nose. Then I'll go in and start to kind of define everything once I have those areas kind of mapped out. Eyes down and around. Some eyelids here on top. Some pupils in here. The iris coming back around here. There we go. Have the nose coming down here and then kind of bring that up, have it a little bit more pointed there at the bottom. Bringing it back up like that. And then let's do the mouth here. Maybe have this kind of off to the side, kind of like a smirk here. Bigger lip here at the bottom, and smaller up at the top. Pull them back out with what we're left with. I think that looks pretty good. The eyebrows in here. And then those lines here for that white streak comes up the sides. All right, and that's gonna be our basic sketch where we've got everything mapped out where we want it. So from here, we're gonna start inking. All right, so let's go ahead and ink. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here to my layers. I'm gonna make a new layer here. This is gonna be my inking layer. And then this layer here with my sketch, I'm gonna hit the blend mode here by hitting the N. I'm gonna drop the opacity of this down so we can just barely see it. About 40% works usually pretty well. And then for my brush, I'm going to switch this over to my cartooning set, and I'm going to use standard Inker Streamline. And before I start, I want to decide where is the light source coming from. In this case, I think I want to have it coming from this top left-hand corner or top right-hand corner. So the shadows are going to fall here towards the left. So we're going to have a heavier light source here, meaning thinner lines. As you move further away from the light source, the lines are going to become thicker and heavier. So that helps you determine things before you even start. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the hair here in the corner. So this top one here, I'm going to have this to be heavier up here. And you're going to see as I come around here, I'm just going to start to use some really kind of crazy shaky lines coming down here just to kind of show the texture and the frizziness of that hair coming down here. You can pull in some overlaps there and stuff like this to just kind of bring it home a little bit more. I'll bring this up around the top here. It's getting heavier in the back, and then start to kind of lighten up here towards the light source. So come back down here, still a little bit lighter. As I start to get further down, I'll start to kind of make this a little bit heavier here towards the bottom. So there we go. I think here too, I'm gonna go ahead and add some little funky lines coming out to bring home the look of the craziness of the hair. So we'll bring some of these around here and here, like so. Coming back in here then, I'll go ahead and bring the kind of peak of the hair down here towards the forehead and back up. And then same thing over here. Pull that down and around here in front of the ear and then back up. Just like that. We got to get these white streaks in here. So I'm going to bring those in. Once again, just kind of thicker as I come down here. Just once again, that crazy kind of jiggly, jagged line as it comes up. Lighter here on the back. Heavier there. Connect that. All right, there we go. So we got where the lines go in now. Let's go ahead and fix this just a little bit. Taper that one up on the right. All right, there we go. Now let's go ahead and get in here and get the ears. So we'll bring these around. Once again, this back one a little bit heavier here. I'm going to start to bring the jawline down from there into the chin right here. Back up. This one needs to be a little bit thinner. Still going to be thick, but just a little bit thinner than that side. Bringing this ear back around. A little bit lighter on the top and heavier towards the bottom. The insides of the ears. The same thing over here. All right, there we go. So that's the start then of the face. Let's go ahead and maybe add just a little dimple down here. Let's get the lips in here next. So the bottom lip a little bit bigger and thicker than the top. Kind of this little smirk going on here. Dimple here coming back around. We got the lips in there, so let's go ahead and work on the eyes next. With this, I start out a little bit thinner here, go heavier and thicker as I come towards the back, and then kind of pull it up so that we can get a nice eyelash in there. So once again, here starting real thin, light press, heavier until we go to the back and go real heavy, and then pull that up into a curve. And it tapers up into that eyelash. And then same thing here, we'll pull some eyelashes here, so light to heavy as we come down. Kind of thinner there as we go towards the front. Pull in this eyelid here. Pull in the bottom of the eye. Get that a little bit better there. There we go. And let's go ahead and get the pupil in here. So I'm just holding down, making a circle. Then we've got to get the iris around there. So we've got that eye done. And from here, if you want to go ahead and draw the second eye, you can. Or if you want to make sure, okay, I want these to look exactly the same, so I want them to be as close as possible, you can also just go in here. This is all in one layer, so we can't duplicate this, but we can go up here to our selection tool, making sure freehand is selected and color fill is turned off. We can just go in here and actually just kind of lasso around the eye that we've made. And then going down here, copy and paste. It's going to put this on a separate layer, which is going to allow us to come back up here to my arrow and flip it horizontally and then bring it over here to the side. So this is a good way to make sure, okay, if I want these to look exactly the same, if I want them to be perfect, that's how you can achieve that. And then with this one selected, you can just merge down. So now they're on the same layer. So that's an option for you if you choose to go that route. Of course, we still got to draw in the eyelid here. I think I want to make that top one over here a little bit heavier too, just like that one. You draw that in, and then of course the eyebrows. With the eyebrows I've talked about before, I usually go thicker here at the bottom and then a lighter line weight at the top, just to give off that illusion of that shadow there underneath. And there's what we're left with. Then going back into the eraser here, we can go ahead and do some highlights here in the pupils. I would recommend the highlights to not add those in if you are going to duplicate those like that, just so they look a little bit different. Plus, you're going to want the highlights on the same side. When you flip them, they're going to be going towards each other since it's the mirror. So that's a good way to do that, is doing it afterwards. I'll go ahead and do the nose down here. Bring this down just a little bit. Kind of heavier here towards the back, lighter towards the front. Lighter line here underneath. Draw another line here. So there we go. We've got the face in there. Maybe add in some dots here for dimples across the cheek and maybe across the nose here. And on the cheek over here. Some coming up the center of the bridge. All right, so there we go. we've got the face done. Let's start working on the rest of the body. So I'm gonna go in here just a little bit closer, bring in the neck down here, kind of heavier here towards the back. We'll just bring in the dress as it comes around just like that. I think I'm gonna do that all one line though, so they match up perfectly. There we go. Looks a little bit better. Let's go ahead and bring the dress around here now. Zoom back out a little bit. I'll do this all in one. So pull this down and then heavier here in the back and the bottom as it comes back up and around, lighter towards the top. There we go. Let's go ahead and pull the sleeve down. It's again lighter here towards the top, heavier on the bottom and back, just because of the way that light source is coming in. This isn't going to have a highlight necessarily, but that bottom of the sleeve is going to be a lot heavier as far as shadows go. Pull this one around. I think it needs to be a little bit lighter. There we go. And maybe just a tad bit heavier here at the bottom. Get this hand in here. I'm going to drop down my size here to have better control because this hand's going to be a little bit thinner. Back up into the wrist. Pull that just a little bit different here, not have that extra overlap. There we go. And pulling out now, it looks a little bit too thin. Let me get it just a little bit bigger. It's really one of those back and forth things. You don't want to make it too thin. You don't want to make it too thick either. So you might have to try it a couple times when you pull out just to make sure that, okay, yeah, that looks better. We'll do the same one over here. So pull up here. Line here in the center for where those fingers come out. Knees back around. Up into the palm there. Okay, so we got the hands done. Let's go ahead and knock the feet in here real quick. Not doing anything really crazy with these. Just to speed this up, I'm just kind of drawing just some really basic shapes for the shoes here. And I think I want to thin that one out just a tad bit towards the front. There we go. All right, so there we go. That is our basic inked version of our sketch. I think that we can add in a couple more details here if we maybe pull down some lines here. So we've got more of the Frankenstein's monster-esque scars coming across her face here. Do that, maybe some here across the neck. Make her look a little bit more stitched. Like that. And then maybe a couple here across the gown too. Just so that looks a little bit more battle worn. A couple of patches maybe. There. I think this hair has a really big open spot too, so maybe drawing in, let's see, we just drawing kind of like a tuft of hair here with maybe a bone sticking out of it. I think that might work. Something like that, just to add something else, just since that's such a huge, massive section. I think that's good. So now we're ready to go in and color this in. So to do this, I want to set this layer as reference. Then we're going to come down underneath that and make a new layer. And this one is going to be our color flats layer. So with our colors open here, I'm going to go to green. Setting this to reference allows us to drag and drop all the colors right into here. Using that as kind of the guide to where they all go. You don't have to worry about them being all in the same layer. It's not going to mess up your lines layer, which is nice. It's non-destructive. So if we just start dragging in here, we can drag these colors in and get everything going. So we got the green for the body and for the hands. Get those in there. Erase that little bit there. I'm going to turn off the background here so we can see where the eyes are. I'm going to switch over to white. Still on that same layer then. I'm going to drag in the white colors that we need here for the eyes and for those reflections there. Let's go ahead and grab this purple color. That's going to be the lips. Since we're in close here, the blue color, we'll drag that in. Whoops. Drag that in for the eyes. And you can see I just hit the line. Now that I've got the white in there, let's go ahead and turn the background back on so we can see what the heck we're doing. Then I'm going to go up here, the dark gray here for the hair and for the eyebrows. I think I'm going to make the patch that color as well. And then the second color here, we're going to do that for the gown there. And then let's also use that for the bone. And then going back to white for those stripes in the hair. Then finally back to that gray for the shoes. All right, so there we are. That's what we've got for our color flats. So now we're ready to go in and add the shadows and highlights. So like I said, we've got the light source coming in from this direction. So the shadows are going to be over here. We're going to go to the second row, this first color, and I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to set this to clipping mask. So what clipping mask does, kind of like reference, it tells us, okay, you're going to use this layer as the guide for where everything goes. You can see this has this little arrow and it's above this layer. So it's going to use everything on this layer to dictate what shows up here. So if you draw over here, it's not going to show up because there's nothing over there. It's only going to be where we colored at on layer 3. So this helps with this just because we can stay in the lines. I'm going to switch my brush over to the standard inker now and turn this up kind of higher because I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to do a ton of color on this layer. So we're going to drop down the opacity of this eventually, but before we do that, I kind of want to see where the colors stand once I drop the opacity. And the fact that this is going over multiple colors, I want to make sure that this is going to show up and not be too light or too dark as I go from one color to the next. So it's important that this really goes over top of quite a few of the different colors in the design. And you're going to see I'm doing this really sloppy just because I'm going to go back in and clean this up later. Just worried more so about getting a huge area filled in. And I think that's pretty good. I go inside there and do those. So now what I can do is go in and adjust the opacity of this to see what we're left with. So going back up to my layers menu and hitting the N here, I can drop down the opacity of this to see exactly what looks good. And I think with this, probably about 32%, 30% probably is pretty good there. So that's what we're going to use for the opacity. And then coming back in here, I'm just going to start cleaning this stuff up. So I'm going to kind of pull this around. You see I'm using that same kind of shaky line in here because I want it to look the same as far as the shadows and the highlights go as the way that we did the lines. We'll switch back over now to my streamline here, have a little bit more control over these smaller areas. Drag these around. And then I'm going to go back up to my eraser here. I'm going to go to the streamline eraser and start to pull away some of that stuff that I did. Just want it to be a little bit more finely controlled here. Pull in a shadow underneath the eye on this side. That's follow along that eyelid there. Pull it back in underneath the eyebrow up there. Just like that. Follow this around the nose here. Have this curve back out. I'm going to erase the inside part of this eye. We're going to go back in and do that again, but I want that just plain right now, no shadow. Erase part of this on the eyebrow so we can see that that's two different colors. Bring the nose around a little bit better. I think there's something there. I'm not sure what's picking up. maybe not colored in all the way on the nose. Let me grab some green here and see. Yeah, there we go. It just wasn't colored in all the way. Go back to my shadows layer here. So I'm going to pull in the shadow around the top of the eye and then around the bottom here. Once again, just kind of going along with that curve of that line that I already did. And then we'll add in a couple of lines here for the iris. Just like that. Do the same thing over here, just not as heavy. A couple more lines here. All right, there we go. I'm going to erase some of these here so you can tell that it's two different colors. So we got some variations there. Probably draw some coming back up here too to break that up a little bit, just like that. See how that really kind of starts to bring out that shadow and it starts to give some dimension to the hair just by having those multiple colors there. That looks pretty cool. And let's see what else here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to make a new layer for shadows. And once again, we'll set this to clipping mask. I'm just going to draw another shadow inside this ear. I want this to be darker inside, but since we've already used a shadow there, we can't use that same shadow layer. So that's why I'm starting a new layer here. And then we'll just have to drop the opacity again by going to layers and dropping that down. So there we go. We got that colored in. Going back to my first shadow layer now. Clean up some of this here. Pull that shadow around the bottom of the ear down here. And go around the bottom of the lip here. Curve that into the chin. There's that. Pulling this back here now, kind of come around bottom here. And a little bit here along the front. That sleeve. I'm going to erase a little bit of this shadow here. Once again, just kind of want to show that that is two different colors there. Same thing here. Don't want the entire hand just to be one solid shadow, so we'll erase just a little bit here and there for this, just so you can tell that yes, there are two different colors there. All right, so we've got that. Let's go ahead now. I think that all looks pretty good. Let's start to add in some highlights. So to do this, we're going to go ahead, once again, go back up here, go up to our layer 5, make a new layer, and we're going to set this as clipping mask as well. We're going to go to our colors, selecting our white, and then just dragging in, just like we did before, dragging in just a large patch of highlights around here. And I'm just going to come out with that kind of crazy line work there. Bring that down around towards the bottom there. And then we'll get a couple of areas here on the skin as well, so we can see what this looks like once we drop the opacity. All right, so going back up here, we're just going to go to the blend mode under the layers and drop the opacity down. Thinking about 25% probably is going to look pretty good. Pulling back out here to see what we're left with. I think that looks pretty good there. So going back into my brush now, I'm just going to start to, once again, pull up some other line work like this, just to give off that impression that we're going for with that crazy kind of textured frizzy hair. Around, we can just do a couple here and there, wherever you want to give that look that we're going for. Let's get in here, maybe do a couple on the nose, front of the lips here, down towards the bottom. There on the cheek, and then probably on the front here of the hand and the shoe, that little patch there. that's what we're left with. Finally, I think I forgot the bone shadows, so go back to my shadow layer here. Come in a little bit tighter and knock in some around here, just around the back, just where that overlaps there. And down the front. All right, so there is that. And from here, it's up to you. If you want to do a little more detail work, you can, just going back to black, going up to your reference layer. If you want to add in like these crazy lines here, along with the lines that we did with the shadows and the highlights, you can bring that home a little bit more just by adding in the black lines there. Same thing here if you want to kind of bring some up from the center, trace along some of those lines that you did. This kind of accentuates some of those shadows and highlight lines. Just be sure to get on the edge there so it looks like they're coming out of there. You can bring in more lines this way, more details. Totally up to you how much work you want to do, how much detail-wise you want to add, cross-hatching. So many different things that you can do. So many more of these little like hairlines that you can bring out from the side. Earrings, there's a lot more. So you decide how far you want to take that. I think I'm going to bring down the shadow just a tad bit more on the eye here in the front to make those match up just a little bit better. And there we go. There's our design. Let me add in a quick background here. Going back down to my bottom layer, making a new layer, and dragging it below here to the bottom. I've got this purple color here. I'm just gonna make just kind of a funky, just retro-ish random shape here. So just bringing this down and around, back up, something like that. Dragging and dropping that color in. That fills in the entire thing because we still have layer 1 on reference. So if you have that happen, I've had a lot of people ask that, it's because this is still set to reference. So removing reference from that, going back down here and dropping in, now it just fills in that layer and nothing else. So if you're having that problem, that's probably the solution to it. So check that out just in case. And then finally, I'm gonna go in here and add a new layer and just sign this. I need to turn off my sketch layer too. I had that back on. So I'm just gonna sign this and we will be done with today's tutorial. All right, so there we go. The Bride of Frankenstein for day number 20 of my 31 days of Halloween drawing tutorials. A new day, a new tutorial. We've still got some month left, so definitely check back in. If you like today's video too, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. It takes 5 seconds to do it. If you watch this far into it, hopefully you can at least pay back the favor by giving it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos like the rest of them in this series. Also, if you take part in these tutorials and you do a design based on these, I want to check them out. So if you post them online on Instagram or Twitter, tag me at BJDell. Or you can also post them on Facebook. I've got a group over there that I created. It's called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists. And there's a bunch of people posting their daily drawings based off of these tutorials in there. So feel free to share along. As for me, I can also be found online, bjdell.com, as well as my podcast, Make Money with Your Art, available wherever you listen to podcasts at. So that's it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow. Will you? I hope so. So until then, keep creating.